Good evening. Welcome to South Asia Newsline. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Here are the top stories we were tracking for you on Tuesday, the 25th of October. Air quality in Indian capital deteriorates as residents defy Diwali firecracker ban. Cyclone Sitrang lashes Bangladesh, killing at least 9, floods low-lying areas. And political activists protest against soaring inflation in Gilgit Baltistan. And now for all the details. Residents of Indian capital New Delhi woke up to a hazy Tuesday morning as the air quality index plummeted to very poor in the city after people defied the ban on bursting crackers as they celebrated Diwali, the Hindu festival of lights. Due to decreased wind speed and added firecracker pollution, residents complained of breathing discomfort.
Indian capital New Delhi experienced a drop in the air quality on Tuesday, a day after people burst firecrackers to celebrate the Hindu festival of lights, Diwali, despite strict government restrictions. The air quality index across various hotspots of the city of about 20 million was in the very poor category, with the reading being above 300 in most parts of the city.
सर जी बहुत दिक्कत आ रही है। मैं घूम रहा हूँ, सुबह वॉक कर रहा हूँ तो मेरा सांस फूल रहा है। उठा के इतने चले हैं, मना करने के बावजूद भी कोई रुका नहीं है और प्रदूषण इतना बढ़ गया है कि सांस लेने में दिक्कत हो रही है।
Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal's government said last week that people who let off firecrackers during Diwali would face up to 6 months in jail under a broader ban introduced to help combat extreme winter pollution. But still the ban was defied on Monday.
बैन था उसके बावजूद भी पटाखे काफ़ी छोड़े हैं और उसका पोल्यूशन इतना हद से ज़्यादा जो हर इंसान को परेशान कर रहा है। मतलब सांसों में लेने में दिक्कत हो रही है, निकलने में दिक्कत हो रही है। इन सब चीज़ों से यह है, फिर भी सरकार ने काफ़ी बैन किया हद से ज़्यादा, मतलब कि वही सांस लिए अच्छी तरह ले इंसान, इसलिए पटाखों पे फिर भी लोग वाग अपनी जिम्मेवारियां नहीं समझते।
Delhi is the world's most polluted capital and its air becomes particularly bad from mid-December to February as heavy cold air traps dust, vehicle emissions and smoke from burning crop stubble in states like Punjab and Haryana.
And Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated Rishi Sunak on being appointed as UK's Prime Minister, the first British Asian and first Hindu to rise to the top position. People across India also expressed excitement and pride over the development.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Monday congratulated Rishi Sunak on being appointed Britain's new Prime Minister and said he looked forward to working closely together with his Indian origin British counterpart on global issues and implementing Roadmap 2030. Indians expressed excitement and pride over Sunak's appointment, the first British Asian and first Hindu to take the top job to replace Liz Truss as leader of the Conservative Party. Indians typically take immense pride when those who trace their roots to the nation of 1.4 billion people do well abroad.
I think it's an exciting thing to the extent that one doesn't have to be a certain color or a class in order to become the Prime Minister of any country. I think we've passed those boundaries. That's a good thing. It's Conservative Party after all, so I hope that their policies are ones that are good for all people, not just for the wealthy.
अगर आज किसी भी भारतीय से आप पूछेंगे तो आज वो बहुत गर्व महसूस कर रहा होगा कि हमारे में से कोई एक आज उस देश का प्रधानमंत्री बना है कि जिसने हम पे कम से कम 100 साल से ऊपर राज किया है। और इसमें कोई दो राय नहीं कि आज हर वो भारतीय बहुत गर्व से कह सकता है कि आज यकीन माने कि भाई जो तरक्की उन्होंने की है उसके लिए हम सारे भारतवर्ष उनका स्वागत भी करते हैं और उनको पूरे भारतवर्ष से हम उनको शुभकामनाएं भी देते हैं।
42-year-old Sunak's family migrated in the 1960s to Britain, which ruled India for about 200 years before the South Asian country gained independence in 1947. He said on Monday that Britain faces serious economic challenges and needs stability and unity. Liz Truss resigned after 44 days as her economic program sparked panic in financial markets.
And in news from Bangladesh, a cyclone roared into the Bangladesh coast on Tuesday, killing at least 9 people, destroying houses, uprooting trees and disrupting road, power and communication links. The cyclone also affected India's eastern coastal states. However, no damage or casualty was reported till the last reports came in.
Residents in Bangladesh capital of Dhaka faced flooded streets and traffic disruption after a cyclone slammed into the country on Tuesday, triggering strong winds and heavy rain and killing at least 9 people. Mass evacuations before Cyclone Sitrang made landfall on the west coast helped save lives, but the full extent of the casualties and damage would only be known after communications were fully restored, officials said. Trishaw riders pedaled through flooded streets while some vehicles were stranded and people waded through knee-deep water in the city.
ঝড়ের কারণে আমাদের রিকশা চালাতে খুব কষ্ট হচ্ছে আর যে অবস্থা যে দুর্ভোগে আছি পানি কাজে চতুর্দিকে রাস্তাঘাটে পানির ভিতরে রিকশা চালাতে খুব কষ্ট হচ্ছে.
The cyclone barreled in from the Bay of Bengal with winds gusting up to 55 miles per hour and a storm surge of about 10 feet that flooded low-lying coastal areas and cut power and telephone links. Most of the people killed were crushed by falling trees, officials said.
নিম্নচাপের কারণে যে ঝড় বৃষ্টি হয়েছে এই বৃষ্টির কারণে আমাদের এই গলির পানিতে তলিয়ে যায় এবং কোমর পানি হয়.
The cyclone also affected the eastern Indian state of West Bengal. Civil defense officials alerted tourists and locals to not venture near the sea. South Asia has experienced increasing extreme weather in recent years, causing large-scale damage. Environmentalists warn that climate change would lead to more disasters, especially in densely populated areas like Bangladesh.
Well, the Pakistan government has requested an inquiry into the killing of renowned Pakistani journalist Arshad Sharif, who was shot dead in Kenya when police hunting car thieves opened fire on the vehicle he was travelling in as it drove through their roadblock without stopping. The circumstances of Sharif's death have sparked widespread outrage in Pakistan.
Pakistani government officials have requested an inquiry into the killing of well-known Pakistani journalist Arshad Sharif, who was shot dead in Nairobi when police hunting car thieves opened fire on the vehicle he was travelling in as it drove through their roadblock without stopping. Arshad Sharif worked for many years as a prime-time television news show host for ARY News in Pakistan and had recently fled the country, citing threats to his life. A Kenyan police report said a relative of Sharif had been driving the car, which drove through the roadblock without stopping, even after officers opened fire. A Kenyan police watchdog has said it is investigating the Sunday's incident. Pakistan's Information Minister Maryam Aurangzeb visited Arshad Sharif's residence in Islamabad and said Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif had spoken by phone to Kenya's president and had requested to ensure fair and transparent investigation into the incident. His body was also being dispatched back home.
वज़ीर-ए-आज़म ने वज़ारत दाखिला और फॉरेन मिनिस्ट्री को ये हदायत जारी की है कि तमाम जो प्रोसीजरल एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव वर्क है उसको जल्द से जल्द मुकम्मल किया जाए और इसकी इन्वेस्टिगेशन एंड टू एंड पूरी इन्वेस्टिगेशन वज़ारत दाखिला को इसमें जो वहाँ केन्या में नैरोबी के अंदर जो पुलिस है उसके साथ राब्ते में रहकर जल्द मुकम्मल करने की हदायत की है.
The circumstances of Sharif's death has sparked widespread outrage in Pakistan from officials, journalists and others. Former Prime Minister Imran Khan condemned the death and said Sharif had been murdered for his journalistic work. He called for a judicial investigation into the incident.
Moving on, political activists recently held a massive protest rally in Gilgit Baltistan over rising inflation and abolition of subsidies given to residents of the illegally occupied region that has made life difficult, especially for the poor. They accused the Pakistan government of pushing more and more people into abject poverty through its failed economic policies.
Political activists of the Awami Action Committee and local residents in Gilgit Baltistan recently held a protest over soaring inflation, high electricity bills, and against the abolition of subsidies, which are particularly hitting the poor and middle classes in the illegally occupied region. The protesters claimed that on subsidies on a number of food items, including wheat, by the Pakistani government, the inflation has gone through the roof. They accused the Pakistani government of pushing more and more people into abject poverty through its failed economic policies.
हमारे इश्यूज हैं, सब्सिडीज है, बिजली का बिल है, हमारा वो है, टैक्सेस का मसला है, रेवेन्यू वाला है और हमारे खालिसे सरकार और हमारे मादनियात का है। सब्सिडी का तो कोई मुज़ाकराती टीम नहीं है, बल्कि उसमें यहाँ कटौती हो गई है और नाकिस है, गंदम है, दूसरे का रेट बढ़ना है, उनके इनके हाथ में है। यहाँ मुकामी जो है, यहाँ लोकल गवर्नमेंट के हाथ में, वो तो ये अभी भी कर सकते हैं।
उसके रेवेन्यू एक्ट को हम मुकम्मल मुस्तरद करते हैं, उसके खिलाफ आज हम एहतजाज में हैं। इसके साथ साथ लीजेस जो गैर मकामी अफराद को मकामी लोगों के को एतमाद में लिए बगैर दिया जा रहा है, बल्कि नवाजा जा रहा है, हम उसके खिलाफ यहाँ पे एहतजाज में हैं।
The activists blame the locals are not even consulted when the government brings about such legislations. These subsidies are not charity, but an obligation set by the UN charters. They said there is a stooge government in the region, but it only helps Islamabad fill its treasuries through economic depredations.
In news from Afghanistan, while the world observed Polio Day on Monday to celebrate global efforts to eradicate the crippling disease, Afghan officials said 2 positive cases of the virus have been recorded in Afghanistan this year. Dr. Sharafat Zamaan Amar, spokesperson for the Ministry of Public Health, said the positive cases were recently documented in Paktika and Kunar province. In 2022, the ministry conducted 8 vaccination campaigns in high-risk provinces. Zamaan said, adding that efforts are underway to guarantee that no polio cases are found in Afghanistan in the future. Polio has been virtually eradicated worldwide, but Afghanistan and Pakistan are the only 2 countries where polio remains endemic due to reasons including inaccessible terrain and suspicion of outside interference. An Indian space enthusiast gathered at planetariums and observatories to watch the shadows cast by the celestial bodies as a partial solar eclipse was witnessed on Tuesday. Meanwhile, Hindu devotees bathed in holy rivers and temples were shut to weaken the believed negative effects brought by the eclipse. Take a look.
Hindu devotees swamped the banks of the holy rivers to take a dip, while temples across India closed their doors to weaken the believed inauspicious effects of the partial solar eclipse witnessed on Tuesday. Priests in India's holy Prayagraj and Haridwar towns locked the gates of temples 12 hours before the eclipse started. According to Hindu beliefs, celestial bodies like the sun and the moon emit negative energies during an eclipse, and the temples are closed to minimize any disturbance that may cause in the effects of divine energy on devotees.
सूतक के कारण जो भगवान का ग्रंथ, भगवान की मूर्ति या देव स्थानों को छूना वर्जित माना जाता है। सूर्य चंद्र ग्रहण पूर्ण होने पे ही भगवान के मंदिरों को साफ सफाई की जाती है, धुलाई इत्यादि पूजन अर्चन किया जाता है, खुद का शुद्धिकरण किया जाता है, नहा स्नान ध्यान करके, फिर उसके बाद में भगवान का पूजन अर्चन वंदन होता है।
Space lovers thronged planetariums and observatories to take a glimpse of the moon partially covering the sun and creating a silhouette. The eclipse began at 8:58 GMT in Iceland and ended off the coast of India at around 1300 GMT. A solar eclipse occurs when the moon passes between the earth and the sun.
इतना रेयर इवेंट है, हम लोग बहुत कम अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ मिलती हैं लाइफ में देखने को. सो वी वर टू एक्साइटेड, लाइक हम लोग 2-3 वीक से प्लानिंग्स कर रहे थे, प्रिपरेशन चल रही थी प्लानेटेरियम में, डेली आना जाना हो रहा था, एंड टुडे इज़ द डे फॉर द एक्लिप्स.
India saw the eclipse starting at 1100 GMT, with New Delhi witnessing the eclipse at 10:59 GMT. Scientists say India is likely to see its next solar eclipse on August 2, 2027.
Well, that's all they have for you from South Asia this evening. Now our viewers can watch the show on SouthAsiaNewsline.com. You can also visit us on Facebook.com/SAsiaNewsline and follow us on Twitter @SAsiaNewsline. That's all in tonight's edition. We'll see you same time tomorrow. Good night.